guys, welcome back to Heels Off at Home, where we talk about everything from love, life, and current affairs.
So the topic for today's episode is going to be age shaming. So guys, I wrote a tweet a few weeks ago about women age shaming other women. And one thing I want to ask you guys is, have any of you ever been shamed for your age, or has your age ever been brought up in a dispute before?
Yes, all the time. I'm someone who faces it quite often, especially on social media. And I have to admit, I found it a bit weird because this wasn't something I was used to. I've been on social media since I was 15, joined platforms such as Twitter at 18, Instagram at 20. And to be reminded towards your early 20s that you're 30 every single day by people who are younger than you is a bit weird, because it's just like, well, yes, I am getting older. That is part of life. Was I supposed to self-combust at the age of 25? And it's weird because if you look at a lot of popular people or celebrities, all their faves are in their 30s. Not to say that I am Rihanna or I am Beyonce, but they are not above aging. Like, it happens to everyone. And it feels like there's nothing to really come at you with. So it's just like, okay, we're gonna come at her age because her age defines her femininity. And it's weird for me because admittedly, there's not a day that goes by these days where I'm not thinking, oh my God, I'm nearly 30. And it's more to do with people always reminding me when that was never the case. I don't ever remember being 21 and thinking, oh my God, I'm nearly 25. Or when I was 25, I never ever thought, oh my God, I'm nearly 27. But it's almost as if I'm supposed to be scared of aging, when in reality, I'm really happy with everything that I've achieved.
No, I agree. I think what it is as well is that when we are younger, the age gaps, the difference between year 7 and the difference between year 9 is so huge in terms of just maturity, experience. Even though it's just 2 years, it's a big deal. You'd be calling someone in year 9 or you'd be calling someone in year 11, you're older. But then when it comes to us being 30 and that person's 32, 33, I'm not going to be calling them my older like that. So I think it's like when we are younger, we live in that bubble. We're in that secondary school bubble whereby anyone who is past the age of 18 or 21 just feels super, super old. And I think sometimes people still carry that mentality about, those secondary school age gaps and year gaps into their early 20s. So then when they're looking at people who are over 25, who are over 30, they're like, oh, they're so old. But those numbers aren't going to matter when everyone's 40, 50, and so on or so forth. We're all going to be age mates. So I think that sometimes, a lot of people still hold on to those age gaps that were very kind of like elementary and think that it's the same for when you're in your 20s, when it's like, no, we're all going through this stage of life at the same time, but obviously on different levels. So I think maybe that's why. But then it also makes me think, when I was 18, when I was 21, who told me 25 was house, kids, husband? And who told me 30 was rich bitch? I'm trying to think, where did these ideals come from? Because I'm 28 now and I ain't got no husband, ain't got no kids, and I ain't a rich bitch. So it's just I'm trying to think, where in society did I get these ageist ideals from? Because my mum didn't tell me that. And I don't think my friends necessarily told me that. But somehow I woke up and these were the standards that I created for myself.
Yeah, I think I just think it's when you're growing up, 30 just seems like such an old age. And I feel like culture, I'm Nigerian, and I just remember aunties, by the time you're 25, you're gonna be married. And also my mum got married when she was 22. So it's just always been this thing in my head that by the time you get to 30, you would just have your life together. Do you know what I mean? And it just always felt like you're kind of running for this race. I feel like when you're 20, 30 just feels so far away and it feels so old.
But then why do women pit that against other women?
That's just weird.
We're all growing. So
Yeah.
why does someone need to come to Oloni and be like, why you're chatting this, look at you at your age, 30, at your age. Like, I just feel like as women, we all know that we have this system that pits our biological clocks against what we want to achieve anyways. So why are you then going to start using that as an attack? That's kind of like the mindset that I don't necessarily get,
it's weird.
especially on Twitter. Oh God.
I guess
it's horrible.
I guess that the women that do that have fallen victim to like the patriarchal belief that the value of a woman is inherently tied to her youth. And it's a bit sad because in age shaming other women, they are affirming to us that they believe their worth is in their youth and their beauty, and that is it. Not in their intellect, not in their achievements, not in their grace, not in anything else but the fact that they are young, their boobs are perky, their bum looks nice, boys like them, and they're pretty because they're young. So it's unfortunate that they do that, because anything they do to anyone else of a certain age in a shaming way is only going to like fortify this belief that women are only valuable if they are young and pretty, which is going to work against them, because aging is inevitable. Like, they are not going to remain 21 forever, 18 forever. And this same energy that they have for older women is going to bite them in the butt when they're older. So I think it's something that a lot of women, sadly, young women, like really need to unlearn. And sadly, a lot of them carry this belief. And it's definitely like projection. It's definitely a reflection of them and their self-worth. Amina, what about you? Have you ever, because you're obviously like, you're the oldest in like our group, has anyone ever like come for you for your age or suggested?
She don't look it.
No, yeah, thanks. Black don't crack, you know. I think that's a good point actually, because a lot of us lot that are older, we actually even look younger than the young ones. Anyway, so
Wait, isn't that reverse ageist thing?
I was about to say.
Well, it's just like, wait.
I'm just saying.
No,
Like,
but it's true, but there's some 21-year-olds who look every bit of 40 and will come and tell you that
Let's
you look,
not call the kettle black.
Yeah. So I think
I'm just making an observation. It's just an observation that, you know, like, it goes both ways, to be honest. Like, there's no point in trying to bring someone down because of their age when you should pray that you're going to see that age, because a lot of people didn't even make it to that age. Like, I recently turned 35, and I was so like overwhelmed on my birthday because I was thinking, right, I'm 35. Like, I'm 35. I've been able to live this long, and I thank God for my life, and I thank God that yes, I'm 35, but God is still keeping me together, you know. I'm still looking young, you know. 35 is young still anyway. So at the same time, it's like, okay, cool, you're coming for someone for the age or whatever. I don't think I've personally received any kind of, well, the only thing I've kind of received in terms of my age is when someone was coming for me saying that this is the reason why I'm single. They were kind of like saying, I had this one troll that kept on messaging me on my stories. Like, every time I put stories up, she'll reply and be like, this is why you're single, you've got a grown ass kid, you're old, this, that, and the other. So that's what inspired me to do the video that I did on my YouTube channel, where I was talking about addressing the trolls that said these are the reasons why I'm single, and I kind of listed them, but in a very sarcastic way. So I did a very sarcastic video just to kind of like encourage other people who may have that same kind of attack, not on social media, even day-to-day life, where people are saying to them, oh, you're single because you're old. Like, no one wants someone that is old. No guy wants a girl that is like over 30. And some, even on Twitter, like, I see tweets where guys are like say if a guy is dating a girl that's older, they'll be like, oh, your mum, your auntie, or whatever. Like, do you know what I mean? They say there's like little sly comments to kind of put the woman down because she's older.
I remember when, for example, Rita, you did this thread when, I think it was to do with being 30 and being a woman. And then you did a thread of all these women who had achieved great things at the age of 30. And it kind of reminded me, I always remind myself about J-Lo, because nobody knows this, but, well, not nobody knows this, it's a lie, but a lot of people don't know that J-Lo, for example, released her first hit single at 30. And
Really?
I think, yeah, like, this is the thing. Like, she was 30, and look at her today. That's why sometimes it's weird when we're just like, oh, J-Lo's 50, but she came out in the 90s at 30 years old. I think she might have lied about her age. But
They do, but that's amazing.
Yeah, it's still amazing.
I didn't
and
know
I think
that.
because of social media, as well, we're seeing a lot of people become successful a lot younger. So when the younger generation look at us, they're just like, oh, she's old, she's old. But it's just like, no, I'm a millennial. And back then, we never had what you lot had. So it's easy
because
for you
they're
lot to
making
pop.
it. Because we paved the way, basically.
In a sense,
Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? Yeah. Wow, I didn't know that about J-Lo.
On Amina's point that where she like slipped in relationships, I think that was it was quite a poignant thing to mention, actually, because I think like it's just a reflection again about how this entire topic is the foundation of it is definitely patriarchy, because in the context of relationships, we are told a woman's value is when she's young and beautiful and when she has a man, right? So I think those two are definitely intertwined and they're connected in that sense. And I can definitely relate to the age shaming thing that you talked about, Oloni. Like on Twitter, like people have mentioned my age before. I can definitely relate to the like relationship thing. Like when I was single, those were the things that people would reference as a means of trying to make me feel insignificant. But I guess like
humble you.
Pardon? Would you say
humble
that,
you almost?
Yeah,
almost
yeah.
Humble you.
But again, it's a reflection of how they view women and how they view themselves. But then I also think that when it comes to this whole like age shaming topic, it definitely works both ways in that like older women, we have a responsibility not to shame younger women. And I think when we do revert to like comments about like them maybe even looking older, I think again it's counterproductive because we're suggesting that like
I agree.
that our value is in our youth and in the way we look. And I think as women, period, like we kind of do ourselves a disservice when we're talking about someone's value as a woman being intrinsically linked to their appearance. And I think like we should just throw that whole entire book away. Like forget the appearance thing. Like how are you as a person? Like how do you come across? How do you treat people?
What's
how
your
do you carry
character?
yourself? Like, yeah, I don't care if you look.
How do you make
I don't
other
care if
people
you-
feel?
Exactly. And I think that's what we really need to focus on as women in order for us to move forward. Because I think we'll always be stuck in a rut if we're always referencing like youth and beauty and stuff when we're comparing ourselves to one another.
I was
Absolutely.
speaking to my friend as well a few months back. Oh, the good old days when we can just go out and chat. And she made a really good point. Well, her grandmother made a really good point. So her grandmother was, let's say, in her late 80s. And she basically told my friend, make sure that as much as you're making friends and you're finding people who are older than you, aspirational, also make sure you're making friends with people younger than you that you also find inspirational, because you're going to get to the ages of 70, 80, 60, whatever, and you're going to look around and, you know, by God's grace, people, you know, are going to be passing away. So if you're just constantly focusing on making friends with people who are older than you, there's going to be a stage where, you know, they might not be around and you're going to be there by yourself. And that was the case for her. So her piece of advice was make friends with younger people, like, you know, learn from them, grow from them. And I think when she told that, it touched such a nerve, because it's like, obviously no one wants to grow up and be alone. And I think we put so much emphasis in making sure that, like just kind of bigging up people who are older than us or bigging up our peers. But like, I do think sometimes that like the older generation never kind of look at the younger ones and be like, oh, what can I learn from you? Or, maybe I should befriend them too. So even with me, I'm finding myself making sure that I actually watch a lot of YouTubers, for example, who are younger than me and killing it and doing their thing. And I will beg friend, like their pictures, comment, do whatever, because at the end of the day, it's like, we just need to, regardless of the age, just look at who they are and whether they're inspirational or not, whether you'd want to fucks with them or not, and not be like, oh, I can't talk to her because she's 21 and she's immature. Similar to what we were saying before, the younger generation probably are so aware of this world more than we were at that age, whether it's due to social media, whether it's due to just like unlearning just bad traditions that don't even matter anymore. So I think with ageism, we just need to kind of break that down and just, I don't know, create some sort of democracy, especially amongst women, whereby no matter what spectrum you're at, we can learn from each other.
Yeah.
I think me, for example, because I've got a 16-year-old and I kind of crossed over the two different generations of people, where, you know, I'm not my mum's age, but I'm also not my daughter's age. I'm kind of like in between, but I kind of get a sense of both worlds, and also my era as well, growing up as well. And even with my relationship with my daughter, there's so much that I learn from her. Like, she teaches me so much stuff. And then there's also me being able to teach her things and look out for her for things that she might miss because she hasn't had that experience, in a sense. So yeah, I think me personally, I don't care how old you are. Like, if you inspire me, you inspire me, and I'm gonna let you know that you inspire me. Like, absolutely. Literally, even as someone that creates YouTube videos, there are people that are younger than me that are so consistent. I just admire their work ethic and their consistency. Like, you guys are really, like, a lot of the younger lot that are, you know, under 30, they're really like going for it in terms of what they want to do with their lives and whatever it is, creativity and things like that. And it's really inspiring to see. Once we remove this idea that, you know, we have to be limited by our age in any way, shape or form, I think then we can be able to appreciate each other regardless of how old we are, and we won't be using, you know, making senseless comments about, oh, you're 30, look at you, you're 30, like, aren't you 30, kind of thing. Like,
just kind of on the back of that then, so obviously it's kind of like, it's women kind of bashing women when it comes to ageism, whether it's on the timeline or Twitter or whatever. Do you think men have a part to play then in debunking these kind of ageist kind of conversations and narratives? Because we're saying that, you know, a lot of it is based on, you know, women putting value in their beauty and their youth, like kind of putting extra value on that, but a lot of that value is because of guys, and we want to appease to the guys, and we want to, you know, whatever it is. So it's like, can men play a conversation in this as well, in trying to make sure that it's not a thing, you know?
I think definitely, because even when it comes to age shaming, when I think about the people that have age shamed me on Twitter or shamed me when I was single for being single on Twitter, there were actually a lot of men in that cohort. It wasn't, like, from memory, a lot of the comments about my age were women, but a lot of the comments about my relationship status were men. And I think a lot of men sadly do that because it pays them to shame you about your relationship status on the basis that in shaming you in that context, they are reaffirming the fact that as a woman, you only have value when you're connected to someone like me. If you're connected to someone like me, then you have value. So I think that a lot of men are going to continue to shame women in that context because it pays them to do so. I think the men that aren't going to are the men that don't have these weak egos and don't and they're allies to us, and they don't feel the need to succumb to all these very traditional and helpful beliefs about what makes a woman. And I think it's those men that will definitely help us by speaking up. And when a guy feels the need to say, oh, she's single, oh, look at her at her big age, she's single, she's not married, she's not this, like, I think it pays for men to say something, because these men that make those comments, they don't listen to feedback from women. The lack of value is so significant that they listen to other men. So when another man tells him, actually, that's effed up, you shouldn't have said that, oh, all of a sudden I'm going to pay attention. But if I tell him as a woman, like, you shouldn't have said that about me,
100%,
for him to say it in the first place, like, he doesn't value me as an individual. So I think, like, calling out your peers as a man for unhelpful like narratives,
everyone needs to be accountable. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. But then also, I think in saying that, I think it's worth mentioning that we shouldn't shame men either, because often, you know, you see a man at a certain age and it's like, oh, but he's 30, he should be like this by now, and he's 30 and this. So I kind of think it's all the way round.
Because I think, yes, you know what, actually, a lot of us women, one thing that we do is that if we say, for example, in terms of the dating scene, if a guy is over the age of, let's say, 32 and he's single, hasn't got any kids, there's this mentality that some women have that, what's wrong with you? Like, why are you this age? Or if you're 38 and single with no kids, or like, do you know what I mean? I think some women
weird.
have this thing
Because I
where
think the other way, if a guy
I feel
is
like that's a
32,
bonus.
not a bonus. I always say bonus, but if a guy is 32 to 38, I wouldn't be surprised or shocked if he's got a kid. I'm just like, well, you are getting older. We have more life experiences, more time to meet people. So I'm not shocked that you have a kid or that you were in a long-term relationship or whatever.
If he doesn't,
that's why
is what
I
I'm
say
saying.
that's
Yeah.
men.
I think with
men,
if he doesn't, I'm like, where have you been all my life?
But if he doesn't have money,
I think that I guess what Rita's probably trying to get at is with men, getting older is often seen as like virtue. It's like when a man is older, it's seen as a good thing. So I don't think men necessarily experience ageism in the same way as women. What they experience is this expectation of their achievements. So it's not necessarily an issue about their age, it's an issue about their achievements. Because the same patriarchy that tells us we need to be young and beautiful and we need to have a man tells them they need to be powerful, they need to have money, they need to be successful. So they feel pressure in a different way. So it's not necessarily connected to their youth, but what they've have achieved as men. So I think like in that context, like do women experience ageism more significantly when it comes to just getting older? I think so. I think when a man gets older, like silver fox, you don't hear silver fox in the context of women, right? You hear it in the context of men.
No.
But I think that
we actually, we do get MILFs.
We get MILFs, yeah.
we get MILF when we look a lot younger than we are. That's the difference. For example, I have a brother, so I see the effect like it can have on men. So a man who thinks he should have achieved a certain thing by a certain point, and if he hasn't, that can lead to significant depression. Like male suicide is significantly higher than female suicide, and the pressure impacts men significantly. So I understand Rita's point. I think it definitely is, like, obviously we're women, we talk about women issues. This is what the show's about, the experience of a woman. We can't talk on behalf of men in that sense, but do they still feel pressure if they've gotten older and they haven't achieved certain things? Like, definitely. And I think for them to be a bit more lenient with us, potentially women who add that pressure need to be lenient with them as well.
It's funny that we're speaking about Twitter, because I think a while back as well, this guy went viral because he basically created a thread on why men should date younger women.
Well, he's from Nigeria. He was from Nigeria. I saw that.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to...
Really? I didn't see that.
Right.
Wow.
But regardless of whether he was from Nigeria or not, it was a mindset that a lot of older men had. And he basically wrote this list about, if you go with a younger woman, obviously she'll have less partners, she'll be less experienced, but then that means you can kind of like mold that experience. And it literally went off. And funnily enough, rather than women being outraged with the fact that he could actually come up with such a kind of like
narrow-minded
mentality on why you should date younger women, there was women who were also agreeing. And I think that's what also aids with the old versus like the older versus the younger, because it's like a lot of women even feel like honored that, oh my God, yes, this is my way of, this is how I'm going to land a 30-year-old, a 33-year-old. And then you've got older women who are just like, how dare you ever think that you would want women for their naivety. But then we start feeling insecure in our 30-something-year-old self that, oh, well, if this is how my age mates are thinking about me when it comes to dating, then I've got no hope. And so then you've got
Just
the old versus
younger.
young.
You see that?
Someone younger, mate.
See, here's the thing.
If all the older guys want all the younger men, then the younger men will go for the older women. That's it.
But Mercedes, with what you said, I do feel like it sounds so weird, but there was a time that even women who lived here once thought like that. Because I know I mentioned, that's Nigeria. Yeah. So we've obviously had to unlearn that. And I just hope to God that they unlearn that one day as well. Because, if we, as we've already mentioned, when you get older, you clock weight. So all that shit I was talking, here I am now at 30 and I'm going through this as well. And actually, my youth, it doesn't determine my value. But in the same time saying that, I feel like when it just comes to women who are older, it goes back to the narrative of men seeing women in general as just property. So, you know, for a car, for example, guys want a car that I guess, you know, hasn't been around the block, if you know what I mean, or isn't as old, or does that make sense? Is what I'm saying making sense? So, you know, we've always had to drum into guys like, stop seeing us as property and stop. I can't. It's weird because I'm trying to, like, it's in my head, but
I know what you mean. Like, it's just this. It's like this idea of like not being seen as like, well, not cars, innit? Like, we're not property.
We're not cars.
You know, and it's that whole thing of like, oh, if she's had multiple partners, then she is this.
Right.
Her value has decreased like a car, and that's not it. And I think that's the great thing about becoming older. Like for me, like being 30. I just feel like it's incredible because I feel more in my skin. The things that I used to care about, I do not care about. Yeah. The idea of pleasing a man, like in terms of like when I was younger, I would, you know, pretend that I cook all the time, for example. Because I wanted him to know that I'm going to be a good wife one day and I'm going to be able to cook for you. Now, I will look you in your face and tell you, listen, I can cook, yes. Am I going to cook every day? No. If you want rice and stew, I've got you. If you want fancy Italian food, I'm going to need you to learn how to cook. Do you know what I mean? But I wouldn't be able to say that before without feeling like, you know, I'm not going to be of value. And I think the beautiful thing is... Or I'm
chasing him away.
Exactly. And I think the beautiful thing is, like, it's just this idea of like, you must be a certain way to get a certain type of guy. Like, it's just that whole narrative. So you must be young. You must have a certain type of body. You must carry yourself in a way. You must not show cleavage. Like, it's all in the same category. And I just feel like by the time you get to 30, it just all goes in the bin.
Even
like,
if you look at like beauty.
It's so funny to me.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say, what Rita said about the boyfriend thing is so funny to me because I remember talking to my boyfriend because he was talking about like buying an apartment, and I said to him, oh, I hope you know that like if I move into your apartment, you're going to have to get a cleaner. And he was like, what? And I was like, oh, I just don't like cleaning. So don't worry, you know what? I'll pay for the cleaner, but there needs to be a cleaner because I don't like cleaning. But would me at 21 have said that? No. Little old me, I'd be on the floor scrubbing away, like little housemaker, like, let me cook you stew, let me cook you plantain, no, at this big age, sorry, I don't like doing this. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Like,
and just it's the same with sex as well. It's the same with sex as well. You know, we used to lie about our orgasms, but we're not doing it anymore because we're just like, no, that wasn't it. That was not it. When you're older, you just feel more secure, and I feel like it's mad. But even if we look at the beauty industry as well, things are always being pushed to women, you know, how to look younger, how to look radiant. Why are you telling a 60-year-old woman how to look younger and how to look radiant? She's been young, she's been radiant, like, it's okay, you know, we all age, it's normal. I've never ever seen anything being shoved at men's throats and being that, you know, apart from maybe like, you know, how to stop balding, but that's it. Do you know what I mean? So society in itself also has a big hand to play when it comes to this whole ageism thing amongst women.
I think it's quite interesting. This is like a little side note that we can see that guys seeing us as cars in terms of things that they want to make sure that is, you know, young and hasn't been around the block. But then when it comes to the topic of sex, everyone's we need to test drive the car first before we buy it. So we're okay to
when we say test drive. Let me finish my point. Okay, but before you land,
let me land.
When we say car, we're trying to avoid saying the word sex. Like, we don't want to be as, not everyone is comfortable talking about sex or talking about sexuality. So we say cars for banter, but we're not taking it literally.
I'm not saying that you are. The point is that I'm trying to make is that if we're able to see that we're not objects to men in that context of whether or not we're dateable or whether or not we're, you know, the kind of woman that a man should want, I think we should be able to see that in the terms of sex, in that we're not objects that, you know, that you need to test drive or that you need to taste and see first before you can actually, do you know what I mean? I think that's where I'm coming from. I'm not saying that we're literally cars.
There's an element sometimes of hypocrisy. So like on one hand, for example, a guy might say in the context of cars, like he doesn't want a woman with a lot of mileage. At the same time, I couldn't be with a virgin because I have to test drive first. So that's where the hypocrisy comes in. And I think when it comes to ageism and ageism against women, there's hypocrisy sometimes there too, because a man will want a woman with experience, a woman that has her own, a woman that can make her own money, a woman has all these things, but at the same time, but she has to be young, she has to be inexperienced in other ways, she has to be fertile, she has to be this, she has to be moldable. So I think that's where sometimes there's an element of confusion. They want someone that can mold, but they also want someone who has experience and who can hold their own and who doesn't depend on them for everything. And I think as a woman, that's where the element of frustration comes in. And it kind of ties in into the point that Mercedes made about the guy who wrote the thread. I've not seen the thread myself, but one thing I will say is that the men who have that belief system and they want a woman that they can mold, if you will, are the very kind of men that I would never ever want to entertain or be with, because you find that men that are of the same age as you, that go out of their way to date women who are particularly young, are doing it because they have this complex that means that they need to be the leader, if you will, in a relationship. They don't see relationships as partnerships. They see relationships as something that they must control. A woman is something that is passive in the relationship. I want to create this woman to be for me and do everything I want to do. And that's why at 21, when you're on your knees cleaning the floor, when you're frying plantain for the guy, a lot of guys who... I'm getting flashbacks. A lot of guys who have a certain type of complex want that kind of women. But the kind of men that I want to date and the kind of men I'm dating in my 30s are men who are looking for their equal, who want a woman who is as accomplished, who want a woman who is as intelligent, who want a woman that can challenge them. And I think that's the difference between like men who date women that have the same mental capacity as them, and men who go out of their way to date women who may be significantly more immature.
Exactly. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe and join in the conversation on socials using the hashtag HeelsOffUK.